Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of the Chicago 16-inch Softball Hall of Fame. Today we have a different format. In the sense of we're all Zooming instead of being in a live room at the Forest Park Hall of Fame, where Paul Rowan always sets aside a Saturday there for us. But today, a little bit different in the sense the gentlemen that I will be interviewing are from that played in the state of Iowa, so a little different for me because we've been interviewing some of the Illinoisans. To my left on the Zoom is Tim Walker. On the bottom left is Mike Knox, and right underneath me is Mike McCune. Gentlemen, please, really thank you so much for coming on and doing this today. Just again, three great bios that I read about you guys, and of course, over the time period, your names are constantly mentioned for all the things you've accomplished. Tim, we'll start with you. What is going on, young man, right now? And then we'll jump around a little bit. What's going on in your life right now?
Well, my son plays 16-inch for Stover on Mike McCune's team, and Mike's their coach. I go out and watch them a little bit, and I play a lot of senior ball. It's a traveling 55 and over hardball. We travel all over the United States. Still working, and grandparents now. My kids are all raised and out of college, so now I'm just being trying to kind of put together my exit plan for retirement. So life goes by fast. So
pretty sure, yeah, very quick. You said it. Mike Knox, what's going on with you nowadays, bud?
Nothing. Thanks for having me. I am currently living in Stafford, Virginia right now, but I still have a lot of ties to Cedar Rapids. Still involved with 16-inch softball, still there, sponsoring with a team, Recon, out of Cedar Rapids. And still, we have a syndicate team that goes to Vegas every year. And Tim was a part of that early on when we started going down there. So we still sponsor a team and put a team together and go play in that one-day tournament down in Vegas. So stay involved with that. And I currently now have my youngest daughter here in Virginia with me. She flew in town Thursday to visit. So spending time with her and her boyfriend and just kind of enjoying life. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, very nice. Thanks for coming on, Mike. Mike McCune, the Q, as we see here in the bio all the time. I know Tim kind of opened it up. You're doing some coaching also right now, and what's going on with you these days?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Still playing a little bit too when needed. So we've been fortunate enough to have our Stover team still active with what I call the kids group. So like Tim mentioned, his son is playing along with my son. Many of the Capola and the McMurrays, which are names from back when we played with the Stover days, are still playing competitive 16-inch and really enjoying it. Live here in Knox.Iowa. I still coach football in my 21st year of coaching varsity football at Johnson High School, and work a little bit. Both my kids are out of college. One's getting married in October. So still trying to kind of keeping up with the young guys and playing some ball and kind of enjoying still being active with them on the field and watching the game grow.
Do you have Mr. Walker help you once in a while if you need a little bit of advice or no?
Well, not only advice, but he'll come out here in the Urbandale area for some league night, and he'll throw out a hit or two when we need one. But yeah, he's very helpful and a lot of knowledge on that. But no, he likes to come out a little bit, and we'll occasionally get him on between the chalk lines too to help out.
Well, you know, this is really something because when I read up on the three of you, and I was talking to Tim just briefly before Mike Knox came on. I got to tell you, I mean, I think it's Tim and yourself, Mike McCune. You guys are part of the not only the Iowa Hall of Fame, but the Chicago Hall of Fame, and then of course Mike Knox is part of the Cedar Rapids Hall of Fame. Mike, you as the individual, and then of course. Your team, the CJ Sports Bar and Grill, is going in the Hall of Fame. Normally, this question that I've kind of represented, and we're going to start off with Tim. What does it mean? I usually do it at the end, is what I'm trying to say. But what does it mean to you? I'll start with you, Tim. To know that you played this game. When you start playing this game, you don't think you're ever going to get to that pinnacle. I call it. You know, how did it for Tim Walker? How does it feel for you? Not only to be in one, but to be in two.
You know, it's a great honor. Sometimes I have to pinch myself because I still remember where I started. and then you got to figure out, how did I get there, but I just surrounded myself with great people, great players, great friends, and just that drive and competitiveness to want to compete and play against the best was just a drive. I'm very competitive from that standpoint, and but we trained and worked hard. But yeah, it's a great honor. Then all the other guys that are in that Hall of Fame with you. I mean, holy smokes! Some of my idols, guys that I grew up watching. Man alive. So yeah, very honored by it.
Exactly. Mike Knox. Mike, you're part of the Cedar Rapids, of course, Hall of Fame, and of course the team. Just to kind of elaborate on both and what goes through your mind from when you started to now, Did you ever, I'm going to put it to you this way, Mike, because I'm an old R&B guy. Yeah. Did you ever think you're going to be that good and bad on the dance floor? That,
Never in my wildest dreams, because I, started out playing 12-inch and was challenged by my coach at that time to come play 16-inch softball, which I didn't know anything about. So the game itself was a challenge, because 12-inch balls were easy to hit out of the ballpark, and that's what everybody wanted to do. And now you're asked to come hit this ball that you can't hit past the pitcher unless you got a game plan. So it was a whole new attitude, whole new atmosphere. So 12-inch was out the door, started playing 16-inch softball, and it just, the people that you meet and learn during that game, you never thought you'd get this far. And I'm in the Cedar Rapids Hall of Fame as well as the Iowa Softball Hall of Fame. And now that we heard about this induction, me and my teammates and coaches have been talking about this. Never in a million years did we think we'd ever get to this point. But as Tim alluded to, good teammates, families that let you go do this week in and week out, all the tournaments that you're going to travel to and play. The sponsor that we had, second to none, in my opinion, that took care of everything so we can go play these tournaments and be the best that we can be. And later on this year, we're gonna have that induction and all come together. It's full circle, but we never really thought we'd ever get to this point. So it's absolutely amazing.
Paul Rowan mentioned that, Mike Knox, that about your team. I mean, it just was like, John, what an honor. What an honor. Mike, when I saw your bio picture, you're holding a ball. And I looked at the bio picture and I called up Rowan and I says, hey, Paul, listen, I don't want to judge a book by its cover, but this McCune guy looks a little mean to me. That's a menacing look over there with that 16-inch softball in your hand. No, but really, for you too, how does it, just the pictures alone of you guys, I could see you guys are all three competitors, but Mike McCune, what does it mean for you to be in both?
Well, it means a lot, like Tim and Mike said too. Just being fortunate enough to play with a lot of good people. I got introduced with a buddy of mine that I played some college ball with, brought me to a small town by the Des Moines area and got me playing this game. And I was playing baseball and football, so throwing that big ball was really hard to get a hold of, grasp on, because you threw it, it flew away. You went up to bat, you'd foul it off backwards, which I can't even imagine trying to do that now and have that happen. But playing with some really good people, I got to start with Tim early on too in my career, and then we just grew our game. Good sponsors, good friends, good family, like Mike mentioned. Just because having someone that allows you to do that on a day in day out basis really helps out a lot. So just a real great honor playing against friends that you've not only, I guess, competitors on the field, but then friends after. I mentioned that in my speech last year. It's really nice to keep in contact with people like Knoxy and others throughout the state, and then really enjoy that. So I get to go out to the ballpark with the young guys, still play a little. I had that ball in my hand because I'm actually doing a little pitching now.
Okay,
I give Chuck Capola.
It looks like I'll be honest, it looks like a shot put there for a minute, the way you're looking at it.
I give our pitcher for many years from Stover, Chuck Capola, a little crap saying, boy, if I knew this pitching was so easy, I don't have to move as much. And if you feel it as a pitcher, it's actually a blessing. So I give him a little crap on that. But yeah, it's just a blast. And I get a chance to go to Chicago last year with Tim a couple times, then play in the National Glove again and see some of the old guys that I played with so many years. It's awesome. And that's why going out to the Hall of Fame induction ceremony, like we'll be there for CJ's induction. It's great because you get to see a lot of those guys you grew up with and had some really competitive, fierce battles with. But at the end of the day, your friends off the field. Well, that's all.
Oh, sure. Tim, we'll go back to you here for a sec. I read up where you're of course out of Marshalltown, And then you played with that Des Moines Merchants, and you played with the Des Moines Merchants. Do you remember that first major tournament, Tim? Do you remember,
I
like,
do.
hey, wow, you know, we're going to Mount Prospect here, which was the big place here in Illinois, because I used to sit in the stands because I was a B player. So I would love to come out and watch you guys and say, oh my God, what do I got to do to be at this level? But do you remember that first tournament?
Like yesterday. Yeah, 1987. Yeah, I remember it well. I actually, 87 was my first year in major softball. And and it was kind of my breakout year. And yeah, and then no, it was great. Really enjoyed it. We weren't quite at the national level yet, but we were really competitive at the state level. Because back then, you know, the teams around Iowa were Mr. Bubbles and Intertrade Steel and Crampmans and Skate Town and El Banditos. And so we were really competitive at the state level. National level, we weren't quite breaking the top 12 yet. We didn't start doing that till probably early 90s. We started making it to the late Sunday, late Sundays.
Well, but to stay on you, but in each one of you can answer this question. Was there a huge difference when we're talking the 16-inch game from, let's say, Iowa to Illinois? Was there this big difference where when you saw players and teams and how they did it? Because, you know, when I interviewed all those guys like Filkins and Baker and all those guys, I said, is there a lot of X's and O's to this game? I interviewed a really great softball player here, Tony Ward, a couple weeks back, and Tony says, John, you'll be surprised about how much X's and O's comes into the game, meaning, like Mike Knox said, you know, you just come up here, not, you know, think you get it over a guy's head all the time. What came into play here, Mike Knox, that you saw coming in when you would play these different teams?
For me, you know, us coming up, we kind of wanted to be like our brothers from the West, which would be Carpet Country and Stover and all those guys, you know, because the way they were playing and how competitive they were. And then when we get against the Chicago guys, for me, it was just the attitude that they had, the way they carried themselves. They walked on the diamond like, we're better than you, no matter, you know, from the get-go.
A lot of trash talking?
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit, but it's the way they carried themselves. They expected to win. And our goal was, you know what, that's going to be us one day. We're going to walk on a diamond and we expect to win. And until you carry yourself like that, they'll beat you down every time. So that's our goal, was to walk around like those guys did, expect to win.
Wow. Mike McCune, you know, I looked up here where you freshman year, you were at Morningside College out of Sioux City, and you really don't start playing till 88? 88 was your first thing?
Yeah, it was after my freshman year. I met a guy named Brian Keeney. He was just inducted last year into the Iowa Hall of Fame from Carlisle, Iowa. And there used to be some pretty good leagues and teams out of Carlisle. They had a big tournament, small little town, just kind of by Tim and Norwalk area now. And he wanted me to play a little bit with him in his league team with a bunch of buddies. And that's kind of how I started. And like I mentioned, I remember playing some shortstop and grabbing that ball and throwing it. And it would just sail about 10 feet over the first baseman's head over the backstop or the bleachers, I guess. And then up to bat, I'd foul it almost backwards over the stop, which I'm sure some of my throws have sailed over my career. But yeah, that was when I started, and I really fell in love with it. And we played a little bit of 12-inch too over the time, but at the end of the day, I knew 16-inch was the game I really loved. It was competitive. You could actually, like you said, with X's and O's, you can really plan behind. And that's some of the things with these young guys that I play with. And I've been playing with them for a number of years, and they grew up around the game, but teaching them to hit behind a batter, or, you know, pulling the ball deep when you need to, or moving runners, that is key. So right. People like Tim and Knoxy and those guys, I know growing up, that's what we had to teach some of these young guys. And as a young player, I didn't know that either at first. I'd go up and just try to rip it. So until I realized, you know, you can place balls in different locations, become more of an all-around player. That's kind of how I learned the game.
Tim, to go back to you, that Carpet Country team, that team was formed to play at the higher level. Is that true? Because I did read up a little bit on that. Is there where you start to see the change, meaning in the game itself? Now you want to get to this next level, is what I'm trying to say.
You know, the Carpet Country team was based on commitment. I needed guys that were going to be there. And a lot of people don't know this, but our Carpet Country team had a roster of about 12 guys. We had guys that showed up all the time. They never missed. We'd play 100 games a year. The other thing, in Iowa, there's fences and there's gloves.
Okay.
And so you need to have power to compete in Iowa. Okay. But then when you go to Chicago, there's no fences and there's no gloves a lot of times. So your big guys can't just pull the ball all the time. They learn, like what Mike and Q and Peanut, that you got to be able to go backside, go to the back way, move runners, set the double play. It's almost like the good Chicago teams will bait you. You got guys on first and second, and you're up, nobody out. Egg's going to throw you inside. Bischoff's going to throw you inside. They want you to try to pull the ball, hit it to the shortstop, to Davey Roll,
Sure.
6-4-3 double play. We did that a lot early on. You got to learn to push the ball, move runners, advance. They're more like baseball scorers. You got to manufacture runs, and you had to learn to play the small ball. Like Tony Ward was saying, there is a lot of X's and O's. We learned that, because if you make mistakes against the licorices and the lettuces and the 45s, they're going to make you pay. And a double play is a mistake. So yeah, that's how we learned to compete with them. Just got smarter.
Even Mike Knox, even back then, now I guess it's so easy, with video and YouTube and everything else. But back then, Mike, you guys knew like who was gonna dump, who was gonna go over your head. Did you know coming into a tournament? Of course, you guys are traveling here to Illinois, or Illinois is traveling. You guys, you knew what certain players were going to do. Were there shifts then?
Not a lot, and especially against Chicago teams, because they could probably put the ball on any side of the diamond that they wanted to. But you knew who was going to do what, and you just had to try to limit any damage or whatnot. But the second somebody comes up to what, where they're basically going to go, what kind of shot they can do it, they're going to cut, they're going to go to the gap, they're going to go to the right side. And that was just repetition of games. As Q alluded to earlier, we played so many games back then, over 100 games per year. Jeez. And a lot of it against Iowa teams, but a lot of them, we're playing in Chicago tournaments, playing against them too. So after a couple of years, you get to know these people and they get to know you. So you're kind of following the script and seeing, kind of limit what they can do. Try to take it away if you can.
How long did this go on, this kind of, I'll say, the rivalry and the battles? Still the question for you, Mike Knox.
Against us in the local Iowa teams?
Yes.
Probably still goes on to this day. I mean, from the beginning when we played, yeah. I mean, our goal when we came up and stuff, I was there in '95 when Carpet Country won the national title, and it was something to be seen. We supposed to be leaving the ballpark, but as they kept inching back into the ball game, me and my buddy Larry Pilcher, we stuck around, and they pulled it off. And if you ever watch the tape, you'll see two Cedar Rapids gentlemen come streaking across the field and jump on the pile when they won the thing. But our goal was, okay, it can be done. We can play with these guys. They just kind of wrote the script how to do this. We can play with anybody. So our goal was to be like those guys and play better defensively, hitting the ball. Just got to learn how to do it. So our rivalry with Iowa teams I think it still goes to this day. But Q alluded to it earlier. When we get done, go have a beer together.
Yeah,
we're gonna try. We're gonna try to beat you up on the diamond. There might be some yelling going on. It might get a little heated, but anytime the game's over, we have a beer and we talk about it. So that rivalry, I think, still exists to this day. That's the competitiveness in you.
No, great the way you brought it up, Mike McCune. I read something about you. Then maybe I'm jumping up a little ahead, but it's still talked about here. Do you remember the game in '95? I think it was in Mount Prospect. I think you guys were down by a few runs, and I think it was with 2 outs, and you came here to Illinois. Do you remember the comeback?
Yeah, I do. And
I hope you didn't mind that I jumped ahead, but there's a little bit of lore to you with this game.
Oh, I don't know which one that is. There might be a few things that week was pretty.
I know it was '95. I think it was in the 7th inning with a couple outs.
Yeah, a couple outs. So yeah, we never gave up, and we were in it. And I think the thing that happened that kind of got us going is that the really big crowd. I mean, it was televised, a lot of fun stuff. And they got to that second out, and the crowd and the dugout over on the other side started clapping together as, a whole crowd. You need one more out to continue, the run from Chicago. And then we got a hit and another hit, another hit. And I remember the sun was coming down in the left center gap, so it was hard to see. And I pulled the ball in the gap, and that was when I had a little bit of speed, and I just ran for second. It was going to the center field gap there, and I knew Randy Russ was going to get it, and he threw a bullet, and it was a bang bang play that I slid right underneath the glove and what was indeed safe. And I was about an inch or two from being game over. Next batter, I think it was Barnesy, got a base hit, knocked me in for the tie. He scored later and we got the lead. And so, yeah, that was probably the most memorable play of my life, other than the very last out when we got the out, and it was a line drive to Kurt Cracky Hewen up the middle. And then like Knoxy said, we all were running out there, and it was an amazing weekend. And a lot of the things that went on that weekend, we probably can't talk about, but it was absolutely one of the most enjoyable weekends I've ever had in softball. So
it comes up a lot. Tim, I got to tell you, going back to Tim Walker, in '96, you were part of the first team ever to get invited to the No Gloves National. Do you remember that situation also? Because now you're moving up the ranks here with this, because there's so many awards.
I do, yeah. Actually, we had played Dollhouse twice in '95, and some guys from their team had recommended we come out and try the No Glove Nationals. Had never played it, so we just thought we'd come out there and try to hit people. That didn't work out very well for us. I think no lead was ever safe, was it, Q?
No.
So they're a lot better. They're a lot better without the gloves. The Iowa teams are a lot better today without the gloves than what we were back in '96. It was all new. We were we were very honored to get invited. It was an amazing atmosphere, and we love the culture and everything. But yeah, I do remember we scored a lot of runs. We just didn't. Everyone else scored more.
Right. And again, I want to stay on you for a sec, Timmy. You were individually named to 8 All-American teams, and also you want to tell us about maybe that little pop in your bat in '99 with that home run contest?
Yeah, I was always, when I was playing regular, I was always into the weights, and you know, and then in '99 it was in Marshalltown, and I think I tied Anthony Tyler and Penn Filkin. I think the three of us each had 6 home runs or something. But anyway, so yeah, I could, and you know, both Q and Peanut had a lot of pop too. But yeah, you kind of had to have a little power if you're going to try to compete down in Marshalltown, because they're 250 fences. And we usually had 5 to 6 guys that could take it out. But then if you went and played on the big fields the next year, those guys better be able to cut the ball and push the ball and figure out ways to get base hits, because those home runs in Marshalltown might turn into 265 fly balls and
long warning track flyouts, right? Long warning.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Mike Knox, I got to tell you, before we came on, it was Tim gave me a little bit of a brief, and you played basically middle infield, Mike Knox.
Started my career middle infield, but then as you know, we picked up players and got better players, kind of moved to first base, and then DH towards the end of my career. Even played a little outfield for a little bit. I don't know how they got me out there, but I did. And but first base a lot of my career, and then extra hitter a lot.
And Tim was elaborating on you that you also had some pop. What was you think your part of your game that you would say you were better at, the offensive part of it or the defensive part of it?
Absolutely offense. Once I, again, figured out how to hit the ball first. Right. And then you put the pop in your game a little bit, but then as people figure out that you may be swinging for it all the time, you got to figure out how to hit the ball to the other side of the diamond, cut the ball every now and then. You just got to change your game up and evolve. And after the years you do that, it's kind of hard to defend you a little bit. So offense was probably more my strategy. They give me a little static about my defense and stuff, but throwing that ball across the diamond after the years wasn't my forte. They call me Nails because sometimes we lose it or launch a ball or two. So,
but
have me stick to offense.
Every year, did your offensive skills change? Meaning, you know, you took something from every year where, you know, maybe I'm going to go to left a middle more. Maybe I'm going to go to right more. Maybe I'm going to dump. Maybe I'm going to use power. Did you take it to the next level?
Yeah, you change your game, you know, and it could be depend on the pitcher. You get some pitchers that you're not going to get that ball that you're going to pull all the time. They know which way you're going to want to go. So you have to take the ball to the right side. You got to cut the ball. You just got to evolve and change your game as the time goes. And as you start getting a little bit older, you're not hitting the ball over the fence like you did when you were a kid. So you definitely have to evolve and change your game.
Sure. Mike McCune, over the years, of course, you know, reading your bio and everything else too, the domination. Mike, what was your, like, what did you bring, like that forte to the game? I mean, you played with a lot of teams. I mean, you played with other things. I know. Well, I would like to elaborate before we close it off in a little bit here with you and Tim about that Stover team. But what was your thing? I mean, because I know you played at the levels of third and shortstop. What was your favorite position, and what was your forte? You thought offensive or more of a defensive player?
I'd like to think both, but defense, like I said, I believe in some of my bio information that I'd almost rather throw out a runner from deep shortstop to end the game than maybe get a base hit to win it.
Yes.
I really prided myself on defense. Got to hit, pretty good through the years and learn some stuff. Started as a power hitter, like probably the most baseball players. And like Knoxy said, just go up and try to hit it hard. But at the end of the day, try to be an all-around player. I guess you can talk to some of the younger Stover guys. I still have competitive drive and juices, and sometimes I probably, even for my own team, and Tim may vouch for this, I've probably been a little overboard, sometimes yelling and getting mad at people. But also, if I'm the one who made a mistake, I've always been the first one to admit my disappointment in myself too. So, but that's one of the things I think all three of us here can say. Our competitive drive and wanting to win and will to win drove us through all those years to be successful and on the teams we are. So at the end of the day, that's what we try to teach, I think, the guys we play with to this day. And when we talk about our history and stuff, I think that's some of the stories that come up. It's just the will to win. And when we talked about Iowa coming through and being competitive against Chicago, that's kind of what we had to come to the field. Because like when Knoxy said he saw, those guys just coming on the field knowing they were going to win, we started developing that attitude and saying, hey, we can compete just as well as anybody else. And that's what probably got us a lot of those wins from all three of our clubs that we played on.
You were a part of 4, I think, national championship games, and you were selected as an All-American also yourself 5 times, including 3 as first-time honors. I mean, what does that mean to you? I mean, besides the 2 Hall of Fames and everything else, and, just doing what you're doing with teams and everything, what did that mean to you?
Well, it meant a lot. I mean, that was from those Stover days where, I think we made it in the top 5 in the Glove Nationals our first 8 years, which, I know it's gloves and stuff like that, but if you compare teams run, I don't know if any team is really, even from Illinois, could say they've done that. Maybe because we were the same team for, 90% of the roster stayed the same for those 8 years. We had to add on or someone retired or whatever, but we got to play in 4 national championship games. And I think, like I said, if it wasn't for the 45s and all the others that we, played up against, which are some of the best to this day ever to play the game, we may have won 1 or 2 more. So it's to play against the best, I think, brings out the best in all of us. And so to be able to do well in those environments and those tournaments, something I'm proud of. And, like I said, it helps to have good teammates around you to get you in those spots to excel and to get game-winning hits
Sure.
or, defensive plays to win games. So, yeah, it's been awesome.
Tim, I got to tell you, I mean, again, we touched a little bit on you with your awards and everything else. What does it mean, like, for you now to come out of retirement? And I see that you're, playing with your son, and I think, and Q, you got a chance to play with your son, and now, of course, Mike McCune's coaching your son. How was that after all the accolades you have, and you're still part of this game? What goes through your mind? I mean, you still want to get out there now and just say, hey, listen, I want to play this full-time 100 games? Because I think that's our mindset when we get to this age.
I got to kind of watch myself a little bit, because I'll say I'm old school. I'm one of those guys that used to play 100 games a year. I would miss graduations. I would miss weddings. I was going to play softball. We would schedule our vacations around my softball tournaments. And the younger generation, including my son, he doesn't play that way. They've got kind of a softened up schedule, and, they might go to a bachelor party, or they might, it's kind of like they play when it's convenient. So I got to kind of watch myself. And I'm not saying the way I played was right or the way they played was wrong. Maybe I was a little bit too competitive. To me, my wife would probably tell you I needed to tone it back a little bit.
Right.
I've been around the game. I'm very proud and happy that I got to play in the era that I played in, because I loved all the guys, all the friends, and all the teams I got to compete against. Because most of the guys from the 80s and 90s, they were built like me. They were old school like me. And I don't know that we I don't know that we would adapt very well to the way they're playing now, but I'm not saying what we did was correct either. Probably wasn't healthy for family life. No, it's an amazing game. I love it. I love it. I love it with gloves. I love it without gloves. I love it with fences. I love it without fences. I just love the whole softball in general.
No, I mean, you're right. The eras have changed. That's going to set up my last question, but I'm going to go to Mike Knox. It's going to, what you just talked about is going to set up my last question of the day. But Mike, I got to tell you, I want to get back to you because of the fact that, you know, I talked to Paul Rowan. You want to elaborate? And again, your career was tremendous, without a doubt. And you're involved in a lot of the managing too, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. You want to elaborate on this CJ Sports Bar and Grill, because the story is a very emotional story, I think, from the beginnings to now, and of course now to be inducted like this into this Hall of Fame.
Yeah, John,
You have the floor here for as much minutes as you want here.
yeah, it's been one heck of a ride. A lot of these guys remember a lot of softball stuff like it was yesterday, and for me, it was we're at the national tournament, and I believe we're in Schaumburg, and a brother of mine on the team, Larry Pilcher, comes to me and says, "It's time to make a change. We're going to go play for CJ's," and we have a little discussion about it, and then our careers start off going to CJ's, and started a whirlwind deal with that squad, and we built it. Coach Greg Mara, Termite, put some guys together that wanted to take this game to another level for us and compete with, you know, the Marshalltown guys, the Des Moines guys, the Carroll guys, as well as the Chicago guys. We wanted to win a state title. State title was not won in Cedar Rapids since 1990 when Bubbles won it. And, you know, the drought had been a long time, and we was hoping someday to change that. So us going to CJ's was the beginning of all that. And then in 2003, we lost our sponsor. Punch Vasquez passed away in 2003. The team stuck together. The sponsors decided they weren't going anywhere. They're going to keep the squad together, and we just played, adding a guy here or there every year until we put it all together. In 2007, we finally broke that mold and won our first state title in 2007 in Des Moines, Iowa. And what a feeling that was, just to get over that. Knowing that Punch was with us that weekend, it was incredible. And then, you know, CJ's had to run themselves. I think 2011 to 2014, we won state titles every year for that run. So we've seen, between us three, you know, us guys here, we've seen our teams go through situations where they play some pretty good softball, not only in Iowa, but in the Chicago level as well. And we watched Carpet Country, Guana Jakes come through, Graphic. We watched Stover and all the things they did, not only in Iowa, but at the national level, was pretty impressive. And once we cracked that ceiling and got to the state title, our thing was to try to stay there and play that way at the national tournament as well. But CJ's is honored. I'm just, you know, I'm here to tell you, John, we're just honored that somebody recognizes that and gave us the opportunity. We thank Tim for, you know, putting us on there and recommending us, and the fact that, you know, the committee, Paul Rowan, you know, made that call to us. It's just a great honor, and this team will show up. Our conversations almost every day, emails, text messages, is amazing. They can't wait to get to this day because of the fact that somebody knows that we belong. It's incredible. It's an incredible honor.
Great. And thank you for elaborating, because it was, when I talked to Paul Rowan again, this was just, I really wanted to hear about this. And, you know, I wish we could mention all these names on here, starting from you to Sauser to Harold, the pitcher, to Mackey, and of course the coach, Greg.
Great players, great teammates, and everything, right. Everybody involved. And we put an email list together, and we got a hold of everybody that had something to do with CJ's from the time they started the team, from the time, you know, they disbanded in 2018. Everybody that was involved in CJ's, we reached out to, and we're inviting to this deal because somehow or some way they had a part of it, whether they was on in the beginning or on in the middle. We like to see everybody show up because this honor belongs to all of them, because it took all of us to get there.
Very well said, Mike Knox. I could see it just from the bio. Mike McCune and Tim Walker, I've got a twofold question for both of you. And then I'm going to end it with Mike. He's going to answer the one fold of that. Mike McCune playing with Timmy Walker and Tim Walker playing Mike McCune. What did Stover mean to you guys? Like I said, Mike Knox, of course, elaborated on CJ Sports Bar and Grill. What did Stover mean to you That's the first part of the question. What did Stover mean to you playing on Stover?
Well, it meant a lot. I think to this day, still very good friends with a lot of the individuals. We had the impression of a real family strong environment. Some of us make little jokes that after games, we'd sit back behind the center field and have little picnics with homemade potato salad and all that fun stuff. And just a joke or whatever. But boy, when we got on the field, we were competitive. A lot of the young guys took the lead of Tim, myself, Chuck Coppola, who was on the original Stover, because it started as a family team back with the Coppola days with a lot, and it was all family members. So to get invited to that group meant a lot to us to, entrust that, hey, the name that we get to play for was pretty important. And then the run, like I said a little bit earlier that we did, I mean, it was phenomenal. I mean, we got to go and we played in some no gloves at Forest Park, and we competed well. At one point we were, up there with the guys in no glove. And then to the national level, you still had to come play the best. I mean, I remember opening night, and Tim can probably tell me exactly. I think it was a 45s. We played opening night, Friday night at Marshalltown, and we got beat in a real great game. And we came back, and I think that might have been the time we got to the championship game in Marshalltown. So we never quit. We never quit. Maybe we were just too young and not realizing that, hey, this is who we're playing. But I think with Tim's leadership, along with some of the other veterans from that team, we've continued on. And like I said, to play with our kids, Tim's kid, mine, and some of the Coppolas and Sean McMurray's kids. So it's just been a lot of fun, and I don't want to stop. And that's what keeps me going out, not only to play with your own boy, but with the other kids that they grew up as little toddlers running around. And it a lot, and it still does to this day. That's why I'm still wearing the Stover jersey and enjoy it as long as I can. As long as they keep me on the team.
Well, let me ask you this. This is the second part of the question. Of course, I'll go to Tim to ask him about what he thought of Stover. Mike McCune, could the era that we're in right now, the boys that you're coaching right now, could they have played in the Walker Knox era in your era? Could they have played the team you're coaching now?
Talent-wise, possibly, yes. I think there's a few out there, but I think Tim alluded to the commitment that is really needed to play at that level on a consistent basis would be tough to compete. We played in a few of the A nationals and have gotten to third and fourth place and played against some of those teams, which fits our kind of talent level. But we can also go and play at state against the OTs and the Chucks and stuff like that. And I think we got in the top 3 or 4 last year in the open state. But trying to get those kids committed to playing and committed to that level is kind of tough. Everybody wants to try to do something like that, but when it takes an extra weekend over Chicago or time like that, it's tough to do. And that's just the world we live in, which is fine. I mean, it is what it is. You just got to adjust with it. And I think we've done a pretty good job. To answer your question, really, if this team, if they put the commitment, like I know the CJs and the Carpet Countries and our early Stover days did, yeah, I'm sure they could, because we have some good kids and they're athletic and they work hard when asked to. So it's just a matter of trying to get a little more commitment from it. But there's a few teams that are out there in Iowa that are as committed. Come to mind, the OTs and the Chucks that play in a lot of these tournaments and get over Chicago more than once a year. So I wish we had more of that. Yeah. But like Tim said, times have changed a little bit, and it is just the world we live in. And that just makes those special times back in the day and the years we played in our prime more enjoyable and in our memories forever.
Tim Walker, Stover to you, what did it mean to you? And of course, that second part of the question that you already know, but what did Stover mean to you during those years? Because there were some great years with you guys here.
Yeah, Stover was, at the time of my life, it was the perfect landing spot. It was I had 3 kids under the age of 6 at the time. It was very family oriented, wife friendly. And it extended my career because my wife wanted to go to the ballpark because she enjoyed all the other wives. Carpet Country was more like a brand. We'd jump in, 12 guys by themselves, and you would drink all the way there and you drink all the way home. And it was just it was a lifestyle. It was a culture that I really had to break away. And so Stover was an amazing land. We went together. I remember coming together, and we were just going to tone back our schedule a little bit, involve kids and families and wives.
Might have lost him here a little bit. Mike, Tim, Tim, I don't know if I don't know if your connection there is a little spotty, but just in case, Tim, can you hear us?
Oh,
No.
lost.
Oh, we lost him. Well, we'll probably I know his connection was getting a little thin, but Mike, I'm gonna end it with you. We'll try to get that all fixed up with Timmy. Mike Knox, would you have dominated in today's era of softball? I'll kind of twist that one around. I asked Tony Tough Ward the same question, so I'm gonna ask you now. Would you have dominated?
I don't know about dominated. We played well. The fact that these guys don't play as many games as we did back then, you probably can save your best for any time. We played a lot. I mean, Q will attest to back in our days, our heydays, you didn't have a weekend you didn't play.
Right.
Whether you're in Cedar Rapids, Marshalltown, Carroll, Rhodes, Melbourne, Urbandale, every weekend we found a tournament, and then probably twice we'll go to Chicago. So we was playing all the time. I mean, all the time. So dominate, you never want to say that. I mean, you hope you do well, but definitely the style we played back then was a lot of softball with a lot of great players, good coaches, good people. And, as Q alluded to earlier in his statement stuff, we've become a lot, friends with a lot of them for all the time we spent with them. We're with these guys every single weekend. So we know them. So it was incredible.
Well, I got to tell you, I know we lost him here for a little bit, but gentlemen, I'm going to close it off like this. This was truly, we need like another hour, 2 hours to talk, but I wanted to touch on some of the great things all three of you have done, from Tim Walker to Mike McCune to yourself here, Mike Knox. This was great. You guys deserve everything, the Hall of Fames, your teams, everything. It's well respected, and I just love the way you guys looked at the game from your era to our era. Guys, really keep doing what you're doing. This was a thrill for me because I was a guy growing up playing like in basically like a B leagues, and I got to play with a couple of guys who are in the Hall that maybe you guys played against with, like Dave Rule and all that. But I got to tell you, this was truly an honor here today, and I want to thank the Chicago 16-inch Softball Hall of Fame for making this possible today. And of course, our president here in Chicago, Paul Rowan, who's always trying to get things on the right track for the Hall of Fame. And I'll be looking forward, Mike, to seeing you at that hall. And Mike McCune, will you be in town?
Absolutely. I wouldn't miss it for the world. We'll definitely be there. It's a well-deserved on, personally to Mike Knox, you guys, what great competitors. We had some battles over the years.
Sure.
Well deserved, Mike in person.
I know Tim's trying to get back on here. He's connecting to the audio, but we'll close it off here by saying I really thank you guys. Truly
the honors are. Thank
and
you.
I hope
Thank
you guys enjoy. Any closing remarks since we got Timmy back on? Mike Knox, any closing remarks?
I think my closing remarks would be, thank you, John, for doing this and giving Iowa a platform to talk about the game that we love, that we know the Chicago guys love as well. We love it as well in Iowa, and we always want to play it at the highest level. So thank you for giving us this platform. Thank you to Paul Rowland, the Chicago Softball Hall of Fame. We are looking forward to the invitation and the induction. We will be there in drones. We'll have a lot of people there. We're so looking forward to this. This team right here is honored, and we say thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations. Mike McCune, closing remarks.
Yeah, John, thanks again. Appreciate Tim and Knoxie's time here as well. To Paul, the Hall of Fame. I mean, including Iowa, is always important, I think, not only to us, but I think the game and I think Chicago too. I know that's one of the things we wanted to earn over those many, many years is respect. And I think it's been really well received by Illinois and all the guys in Chicago. We're trying to keep this game alive. We think we have some good representation in these past few years, some very good competitive teams out there. I love what's going on with the game, and it's because these two guys down here below me that it's continued. And once again, thank you to you having this platform, John. It really was nice to talk softball with you and meet you, and always good to see Knoxie in person.
For sure.
Always a
Tim
pleasure,
Walker, Tim, I know you went out for a beer. I know they said you took out for a beer. Maybe
Talking about beer on the bus,
Yeah, had to go get one.
Yeah.
You gotta go get one.
Yeah.
But Tim, you got the last few minutes. Closing remarks on anything that you want to say about the career.
Well, John, John, thanks for having me, and Paul for this idea. I've always whether it's ASA, SSA, Hall of Fame, I've always, anybody that's helping grow the game, I'm going to support. And that's just how I roll. In Iowa, the ISSA and the ASA all get along great. We kind of work together and get stuff done. So anybody's trying to grow this game, glove, no glove, co-ed, major, A, I'm going to support. And I just love the game. I'm passionate about it. And Peanut, I will be there with bells on to watch CJ's go in the Hall of Fame in October, my friend. I'll be there,
Thank you
buddy.
for
Way to
everything.
represent.
Thank you for what you do. Thank you.
Well, I'm gonna leave it like this, like I left it with Filkins and Baker and those guys again today. I have to say one word about the three of you and what you've all accomplished with your teams and of course individually. I am glad to be a part of today, a dominating bunch. Thank you guys and have a
Thank
great
you.
day. We'll
Cheers,
talk soon.
guys. Thanks.
See ya.